Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon on the YouTube app to never miss an update from the Beverage Trade Network.
My name is David Meneses. I'm a certified sommelier, and I started working for Palmaz Vineyards about 6 months ago, and I'm one of their state ambassadors. And I've been lucky to represent the winery at different events as well outside of the winery. For me, it's kind of just been a dream to live in Napa. So I came to Napa Valley for the first time in 2013. A distributor named Augustin was kind enough to take me out here. We stayed at the Stagman House, and it was just I fell in love, right? And ever since that moment, I always kind of said if there's ever an opportunity for me to come and work and live in wine country, I need to do that because I just thought it was gorgeous. And now I kind of get to do that, which is great. Very different hours, so it's nice having more of I guess a 9 to 5-ish kind of life at times. My girlfriend definitely appreciates it. But at the end of the day, it's still hospitality. And when you get down to it, I've worked in restaurants since I was 14. So it's kind of ingratiated in you. At the end of the day, we're just here to make people happy and introduce beautiful wine to amazing people. Well, I think that just our property is really, really special. I mean, I joke around that like literally last week, there was like a baby deer that crossed in front of me and then little birds flew out. Kind of felt like I was in a Disney movie. But it's just such a beautiful property. And our tours are really special in the sense that, people are outside, they get to see the view from the top of our winery, which is about, again, 240 feet up high, then kind of go down into the caves and see all of that. And then Christian will talk a little bit more about all the technology, but you'll get to see Felix and how we incorporate that into the wine. And so kind of seeing how we yin and yang technology is really, really special. And I think people really get a kick of it. And then most importantly, we make really beautiful wine. And the wines are clean and unique and vintage specific, which makes it really, really special. Well, I mean, I don't think you could say any particular wine region will ever have its day, right? You're Australian, right? Australian wine's always going to be indicative, so have a style, and that style is going to be indicative of that area. Italian wines are going to have, wines from Tuscany, wines from Piedmont, wines from Bordeaux, wines from Burgundy. It's a region, it's a style that comes from that area. So, there's always going to be people that like different styles of wine, so there's always going to be a different wine for different people. I don't really think there is a big misconception. I mean, wines from California are supposed to be a little bit more fruit forward. We're a New World wine region. And so, I mean, some people think they're all just gonna be big, huge, massive fruit bombs. And there's complexity and diversity within the wines and different wine producers. So it's really, if you think that they're all gonna taste the same way, then I kind of encourage people to kind of go out and taste through different producers. You have anywhere from Caymans to Kathy Corson. Well, we're really lucky. Here being in Coombsville, we are a little bit cooler compared to a lot of our neighbors up in the north. Our proximity to kind of like the bay is really, really important. It kind of adds longer hang time to the wine, allowing for the complexity of the wines to kind of build throughout time. And yeah, I mean, I think Palmaz as a whole really rides that middle ground of kind of like not overripe, not underripe. We're kind of right there in the middle of just right, just kind of perfect, which is really, really, really nice. Oh gosh, I mean, there's tons of vineyard properties that work here, but like our immediate neighbors, our vineyard neighbors are Farniente, Stag's Leap Wine Cellars, Silverado, and Kenzo. But I mean, Faust is kind of all up there too, so the second label through Quintessa. So Coombsville, they make a good job, and people are getting fruit from here. So even though their main wineries might not be here in Coombsville, they're definitely buying fruit from this area. Well, I mean, we definitely go to the extent of finding out what we're working with here. From, Julio back in the day taking 4,900 soil samples of the property just to figure out what he was working with, and then knocking that down within 24 very distinct little microclimates. And then within those microclimates, we like to keep those separate through the entire time, through the entire winemaking process. So when it comes to blending, our winemakers, Tina Mitchell and Mia Klein, can really kind of sit down and make the best blend out of our estate. Very kind of like a little nod to Bordeaux and the great houses that come from there, and the great chateaus that come from there, and show the best that we can from our estate. Well, I mean, everyone's different, right? I've always kind of found balance. I loved working in restaurants. I loved the hours. I loved having my mornings. I loved having my Sunday, Mondays. And now it's kind of just like the opposite. Now I'm kind of adjusting to this new time frame. And I'm loving being able to have dinner and do things at night, which I've never really been able to do. But it's all, I think you need to, you make the best out of all the situations that you're in. And it's been nice. I mean, I get to look at this beautiful view every day, which is pretty special for me, and that's kind of brings me and makes me kind of full every day. They're incredibly fruit friendly. Yeah, so we have for example, just the tastings that we have here, the cabs literally are meant to go with cheese, Wagyu beef, and chocolate. So you think about that type of diversity that you have. But the wines are also really, really nice on their own. So even when I do tastings with people, I have them taste through the wines first. We talk about the wines, their initial impressions of them. Then they have them with food, and it's so entertaining watching people react to it. They'll have the chocolate and they'll be like, oh my God, or they'll have the cheese, and they'll everyone's first instinct is oh, I love this one. I love the 2014, or I love 15. And then as soon as they're eating, they'll be like, whoa, I gotta change that up. And they start debating. And really, when it comes down to it, the Palmazes are doing all of this because they want to bring people together, and that's what they do. That's why they all live here on property. They're a family unit, and the idea, and we have our own cattle ranch, so we do beef. And a perfect image for the Palmazes is someone gets their beef subscription. They're all making a big family meal. They're all sitting around drinking Palmaz wines, and it's about bringing people together. And the Palmazes do that with themselves, and they want to bring that to everyone else. Oh, all of our different wines. So yeah, we have, we make 4 Cabernets here on property. The Palmaz is definitely our namesake, and it's kind of like what we talked about, the best wine that we feel that we make out of all of the different vineyards in our estate. Then after that is our Gaston, and Gaston's actually Christian's middle name. And it comes from every year, or almost every year, I should say, we try to pick the most interesting microclimate. And whatever, it varies. It could be up at 1,400 feet, it could be down at 300 feet, but then we'll make a wine separate and bottle that separate, and that gets 100% New French oak, and it's 100% Cabernet Sauvignon just for that one microclimate. And then we have our Cedar Knoll, which is a kind of a nod to Henry Hagen, who was on this property back in 1877. And it's just, a nod to him, and it's our second label through distribution. It's a Cabernet Sauvignon, but it's definitely a little bit more approachable and very restaurant friendly. Yeah, so are we thinking about retail, or are we thinking about what buyers are going to buy them for, or how much they'll be on the market? Buyers are buying for it. So I'm pretty sure, and God, Sean might kill me. I think the Cedar Knoll is around $50 right now for SommelierBusiness to buy in the restaurant. And the Palmaz, I think, should be around the price of Quintessa. So I think that's about 100 roughly for SommelierBusiness, roughly. But again, I don't want to, I don't want to give you bad information, but around that kind of pricing. I've been in the restaurant industry since I was 14 years old. Literally as a busser, dishwasher, just kind of worked my way up my whole life. But I originally started in the kitchen, funny enough. I went to Johnson & Wales, I have a culinary degree. I did my internship at the Mandarin Oriental and was fortunate enough to meet a woman named Michelle Bernstein, who really kind of shaped me professionally a little bit. She was the sweetest and hardest woman you're ever gonna meet in your life. But yeah, during that time, I was in the kitchen and I kind of got to see the people in the front of the house, and I was enamored by it, you know, the kind of like chaotic, controlled dance that people do in the front of the house, which I think is really, really kind of like beautiful and chaotic all at the same time. And I kind of like saw what the Somms were doing, and I kind of thought they were rock stars. You know, they were just kind of like, they got to swoop in at the table and be super charismatic and then leave. And I was just like, I want to do what that guy's doing. And people, you know, I was 21, so they get to drink all day. I'm like, this guy's awesome. But yeah, I eventually kind of, I stayed working with Michelle. I started working for a distributor. I was selling wine to the Fontainebleau in Miami Beach. And the guy named David Mocha was just like, listen, I really like your energy. I think you should come in and apply. And I applied, and I had my first opportunity in 2008 when I was the assistant sommelier at Gotham Steak in the Fontainebleau, which is Alfred Portali's second restaurant at the time. I was there for almost a year, and before that, I eventually transitioned into being a Hakkasan, and I started running Hakkasan at the Fontainebleau for about 4 years, from about 2010 to 2014. From then, I started working with Laura Di Pasquale at Steakhole, which is a distributor in Florida, for about a year. I started working with Laura Di Pasquale at Steakhole Fine Wines, as well as with a smaller company called Berternami Selections in Florida. Anthony Austin and Henry Perez were the owners of that company. They really kind of fun little esoteric wines, and we worked with a bunch of cool little cult Cabernets produced through a distributor called Angel Share. But yeah, it's good. I think it's important as a sommelier to understand both sides of the situation. So when you work for a distributor, you have to sell a little bit of everything, whether you like it or don't like it, which is fine. You know, that's what the job is. You're selling wine, you're a salesperson. Because at the end of the day, distributors have to make money, and they build partnerships with different with different wineries, or different kind of, with different groups, like, you know, I'm not naming any groups, I'm not gonna do that, but with different groups. So yeah, you have goals that you have to meet. And at the end of the day, I don't think I really wanted to sell wine I didn't believe in. Does that kind of make sense? You know, and there are people that are amazing at it. And the main thing that I really wanted to touch on is just like, it's important to be on both sides of things, because wine reps work really, really hard. And their days are, you know, as a somm, you're like, oh, these guys just, you know, drive around and try to sell me wine. And, you know, they work their butt off, and they're constantly on. So they're lazy. I worked probably more hours as a distributor than I did as a sommelier. And I was putting in, like, you know, 60, 70 hour weeks, like, because you're just constantly on. You know, you could be having dinner with your girlfriend, and then all of a sudden a rep calls, or a buyer calls you, a somm, and you're like, oh my God, I forgot to order this. And you need to like scramble. And I've left dinner before, gone to another restaurant, picked up wine, and brought it to another restaurant because, you know, they had a party that they forgot about, and you want to be that go-to guy for them, that go-to person, I should say. So it's really important, but you know, it's kind of just it's all encompassing. But being a distributor, working for a distributor and being a sommelier definitely is very eye-opening, and I think it helps you out. And you kind of understand how they sell, right? So you understand pricing and the different kind of tactics that they use to try to sell you things, and how you can get better pricing. And like, you know, there's always kind of, yeah. Well, I mean, so it's interesting, right? Because you have, I mean, obviously the people that like you have on your website, like you've had Evan and you've had Jen, and these people are like very, you know, they love wine. They're into learning. They're constantly trying to grow. This is kind of like what, the top 3% of restaurants in the country. Like it's not the norm. So usually when you're a rep, you're dealing with people that kind of, some of the people just got thrown into that. They don't have this constant wanting to learn and know and kind of like doing this. So you're just trying to get in front of them and trying to like just sell them and taste them on stuff, you know? And so a lot of distributors are like I had to make proposals for people. Like Jen talked about it in her interview. She was selling wine, and then all of a sudden people are like, oh, well, help me write my wine list and help me do this. That's a normal thing. And then, so you're, you know, as a distributor, you're like helping write wine lists. You're putting people into connection to like, you know, work things out. You're constantly there. It's a lot of work. It's all, I think the most important thing for a distributor, obviously knowing your product's incredibly important. But the most important thing for me when I worked for a distributor was to follow up and to be there. It's really, follow through with what you're saying. If someone likes something, make sure you get back to them and make sure like, oh, you like this? Do you still want this? And don't be too pushy, but be like, make sure that we talked about this. You're following up with what you're talking about. And try to stay, true to your word at the end of the day. And that's pretty much it. And maintaining that communication honest and open is just the most important things I think a distributor can do. Yeah. The biggest thing is just to be there. I mean, it sounds really, it's just show up, even if they're not gonna buy anything, but it's a good account. You come in, you say hi, you follow up with them, you check their wine list, make sure you don't bring them wine that is not gonna make sense for their wine list. If there's an Italian restaurant, and you bring them a California Cabernet when they don't need it, you're gonna be like, why are you bringing me this, right? So have a conversation, be conscious of what you're doing. Do everything with purpose. And I think you can do that with life, and you can apply that to anything. But when you're doing things and you're going to accounts, because sommeliers get bombarded by everyone, especially in California, because a lot of these wineries and here in Napa do direct sales. So you're dealing with a lot more people than you are like back when I was in Florida. So when you finally get the chance to be in front of them, they're like, all right, cool, it's your show, what do you got for me? And if you're not prepared and you well, I don't know, what do you want? That's kind of it. If you don't do things with purpose, when you show up, be prepared and be ready. Kind of like with anything in life though, just care. Honestly, just care. It sounds really, really bad, but just care about what you do. And I would say that to people, from bussers to servers to me personally to my assistants. If you just care about what you're doing, it'll come through, and the people who you work with will notice that, and it'll go leaps and bounds. I think that's not a trend. I think that's just the standard. I think it's important. I think it's been done from the beginning when the first sommeliers ever traveled to see wine country. When I came in 2013, like I talked about before, I made sure that I didn't even make sure, I just happened. I know everywhere I visited, I had their wines on my wine list because I built a connection to the people that I tasted with. And I built a connection to the families and their stories, and that connection is what it's all about. And when you're talking to your guests about that, they notice it. I can talk about, if I talk to someone about something that I read online, I'll still, it'll still be like interesting and fun. But when I talk about somewhere I've been, like your facial expressions change, the way you talk about them changes, and you can't duplicate that no matter how you study. So yeah, I think when it comes to building relationship with wineries, I think it's important. That's why being here is so special, because you're an hour and 15 minutes away from Sonoma, from Napa, Santa Barbara. Being in San Francisco, being the Bay, is such a cool little opportunity, which is why I left Miami, because I was super happy in Miami. I'm such a Miami guy, like to a fault probably. But it's so special being here in the Bay. It's really, really cool. And I needed to experience that at least. Even if it didn't work out and I would have fallen flat on my face. I mean, luckily that's not what happened, but I'm just happy I did it because it's really cool. It's just grape juice. I mean, at the end of the day, I know that, the guild's super important, and studying for your grant exams are super important. But if that's not your path, that's okay, just at the end of the day, I think, remember that you're in the hospitality industry. You are here to be hospitable and make people feel happy and make sure that they feel like they're going into your home. And whether that's them ordering a $30 bottle of wine or a $3,000 bottle of wine, That's kind of like the most important thing. And it's so easy to get kind of almost like jaded because you're working 60, 70 hours a week. You're constantly there. Like I would show up at like 10 a.m. and I'd leave at 11. Like that was my constant schedule, like normal. You know, you forget. And I've had to tell myself that. And I've had people tell me that. So like, you know, just remember, you're here to have fun. You're here to make other people's lives be better. Being a sommelier was the most amazing situation because people get to spend some of their most amazing kind of like days of their lives they get to spend with you. Whether they're getting married, whether it's their anniversary, whether they just graduated. Like you are in their lives in some capacity for the rest of their life. Like who gets to say that? That's really, really cool. Like Jordan, well, the guy who normally, one of our ambassadors, he helped someone get married right over there. Like that's really special. Like not a lot of people get to say that. If you work in an office, like that's not something that happens. And that's something that happens to us like on a weekly basis, which is really, really cool. And so wrapping it all up, like don't forget that. Don't forget why we're here. And at the end of the day, it's just to make people happy. My name's David. Thank you for tuning into SommelierBusiness.com.